What's poppin'? Real ones. Logan Murdock here, a.k.a. Logie Boo Not the Two. Big news today with the firing of Nico Harrison by the Dallas Mavericks. Me, Raja Bell, and Howard Beck get into it. All of the rumblings about the firing, including the statement by Patrick Dumont. Where do the Mavericks go from here is the question. I have no idea, but I do think that personally that there is a path forward for the Mavericks. I think this was the right thing to do. I think that just build around Cooper Flag, especially after that game last night against the Bucks. I think the proof is in the pudding. So we get into all of that. I just gave you my take there. And then we got Cartier Cliff coming in to give us a modified version of the show we were originally going to do, which is the first impressions of the first 10 games of the season. We get 3 questions of that. No mailbag today. I'm sorry, guys. The Nico Harrison stuff kind of messed up the show a little bit, but we will get to that next week. I think that's it. Is there anything else? I don't know. Let's go.
You're listening to the Ringer NBA show presented by FanDuel. FanDuel now displays your bet directly on your phone's lock screen. And with the latest updates to the live events and player pages, it's never been easier to be part of the game. And Missouri, get excited because FanDuel's coming your way December 1st. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app now and play your game. 21 plus and present in select states or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut.
Cliff, play the theme music. What's poppin'? Real ones. Logan Murdock here, Raja Bell there, Howard Beck in the motherfucking cut, Cartier Cliff in a bit. All right, we got a action-packed show for you guys today. We have our 10-game impressions, but first, we're going to talk about the long path to the eventual firing that has happened today of Nico Harrison. Let's give some timeline before we get into what happened today. 2021, Nico Harrison is hired as head of basketball ops, succeeding Donnie Nelson, who left under some weird circumstances related to Luka Doncic, and proceeds to, build a contender, right? Builds a team that is primed to go to the 2024 NBA Finals. Makes a few great trades to get Daniel Gafford, drafts Derek Lively, and seems trades for Kyrie Irving. Seems that the Mavericks are on the up and up, go to the finals, and then he abruptly trades Luka Doncic ahead of the trade deadline last year, weeks ahead of the trade deadline. Didn't tell anyone, didn't even do a bidding war, just gives him away, right? For Anthony Davis, says he wants to have a defense-first mentality. And that seemed to start the clock on his eventual demise. The Mavericks inexplicably get the number 1 pick, draft Cooper Flag. And the fire Nico chance still didn't subside. And that leads us to the beginning of this season where the Mavericks, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Last year, Kyrie Irving tears his ACL, and then Anthony Davis comes into camp out of shape, and Cooper Flag is thrusted into the point guard position where it does not go well. And now we are here a day after one of Cooper Flag's best games of the season. Still fire Nico chants are permeating throughout American Airlines Arena. And now Michael Finley is going to lead the organization from a basketball ops perspective. Howard, I'm going to start with you. Where do the Mavericks go from here?
So the interim deal is actually Mike Finley and Matt Riccardi, who I just want to note here also, because that front office, I don't know that had a lot of guys once Dennis Lindsey left who have a lot of front office experience. Matt Riccardi, young, came from the Brooklyn Nets, so I know Matt a little bit, and so he and Finley, it sounds like it's going to be kind of the team approach in the interim. Maybe they name one of those guys the permanent GM. Before we look back, I mean, you said, where they go from here. So yeah, let's look forward immediately. Give the Mavericks, I guess, credit. Give Patrick Dumont credit, I guess, for realizing the mistake of the Luka trade belatedly. You can't undo it. You can't fix anything, and you are where you are. And so this would be a good time for whether it's listening to Mike Finley and Matt Riccardi, and Mike Finley, obviously great career in the league, most of it with the Mavs, and really smart basketball guy. Matt Riccardi, veteran of front offices. Like, listen to your front office guys who actually have a lot of NBA experience, unlike Nico, who did not before taking that job. But also, Dumont's new, so he doesn't know a lot of other people around the league. The hardest thing to do as an owner when you don't know anything about the NBA is figure out who to run your team, because you don't know anything about the NBA. And sometimes it's just the closest person who you know or you trust and have some kind of NBA ties, and then you appoint them. To be clear, Mark Cuban is the one who hired Nico before Dumont and his family took over, but still, you placed too much stock in his judgment in this case. So this is on you as the owner as much as it's on Nico Harrison. That's one. Two is, as you move forward, you now have to figure out, who do you trust? Who do you trust who actually knows the league? Because the next GM, whether it's Michael Finley, whether it's Matt Riccardi, whether it's a team approach, whether they're interim and you're hiring somebody else, whoever it is, however you do this, you have to have a sober-minded view of where your team is right now. This is not a contender. This was not a contender from the moment you made the Luka trade. I'm sorry. I don't care about defense wins championships, AD and Kyrie, if healthy, if. They were a non-contender the moment they made this trade. So realize where you are. You're a rebuild. You've got an incredible young prospect in Cooper Flagg. You've got some really nice young talent, including guys like Derek Lively. He's got to get healthy. That's your future. It's not Anthony Davis and it's not Kyrie Irving. And it may not be PGA Washington and Daniel Gafford and whoever else and D'Angelo Russell. I would trade everybody but Cooper Flagg, or I'd be open to trading at least everybody but Cooper Flagg and Derek Lively. You are not a contender. You are not going to be a contender anytime soon. And you have some aging, injury-prone stars who, if you can still get value for them, you should. Because you're not winning anything anytime soon on a Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis timeline. That's where the Mavericks realistically are. And now that you've changed up your front office, fired Nico Harrison, and are going to make a new hire, you have the opportunity to grapple with reality and choose a wiser path forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at any of that. I came up here last pod talking about that timeline, saying that I would not give up on it for next year if it were Kyrie, AD, Coop, Derek Lively company. I still kind of maintain that. But if you were to say to me, hey, this is a fresh start and we'd like to make it because this front office isn't tied to this roster any longer and we see the need, I'm good with that. I'm okay with that too. It's weird. I feel like the job itself is like a lot of these college football jobs where I might take a look at someone who's been there, done that, a retread, if you will, Howard and Logan, somebody who just, they might not have the top end potential as one of these young like masterminds, but I know they can get me to a certain level. Do you know what I mean? They can execute enough trades to get me viable, solid, and on the right path. And maybe he's not the guy that takes me to a championship, but he's the one that gets us back in solid, good graces of the fan base, playing good basketball, and then maybe the next hire wins the chip. I don't know. I was just thinking about it as you guys, as you were saying, Dumont family doesn't have a great feel for the landscape of the NBA. And then who do you then trust if you don't know anybody in the league? And I'm like, man, maybe you just go out and get one of those retread guys. Ceiling might not be as high as another one, but the floor is really, really high.
I understand that. It's really hard for me to go against you, Ra. But I think that, like, if you watch last night's game against the Bucks, you see everything that the Mavericks should be doing, right? Like, Anthony Davis was out, Lively was out. This was Cooper Flagg's show, and he was everything, Raja, that you love in him, right? He was running the floor, he was figuring stuff out, he was getting the ball around, he was making exciting plays. But more importantly, you could see him developing in real time, right? And I think that might be the best path forward here because it's going to be really hard to your point, and I see where you're coming from on this because it's going to be really hard to get off of Anthony Davis's contract. I think he has a player option. His contract goes until 28. He has a player option for the 27-28 season, And I think he's making something like $62 million, bro. And this is not Los Angeles Lakers Anthony Davis. This is Dallas Mavericks Anthony Davis coming in out of shape, looking about 10 pounds overweight, looking like, in your eyes, Raja, someone who doesn't necessarily like care about the game and care about what his role on the team as the best player. And so with that being said, man, like I'm down to just cut bait and be like, okay, AD, collect your checks. This is all about the development of Cooper Flag, because this is our only pathway out of this, right? Because there's so many uncertainties when you talk about Kyrie, who even at his best felt like more of a hired gun instead of like a number one option. He's a guy that can support and get you 40 points, but he's not necessarily somebody that you want to be leading a team. Same with Anthony Davis, right? They were kind of two peas in a pod when it comes to that. But I do think that this is an opportunity and an out for Dallas to be like, oh, we're just going to put all our chips on the table. Cooper Flag, you can play all the point guards you want. You can develop. You can figure it out. We don't care about the win total right now. We just care about methodically building a team around you. And they do have, like, even if they get rid of, in a perfect world, if they get rid of Kyrie Irving, they get rid of Anthony Davis, they still have a really good roster around Cooper Flag, right? When you talk about Lively and when you talk about Gafford and you talk about PJ, who had a really good game last night until, he missed some free throws. But, like, what can you do, right? He's not usually the guy you want at the free throw line down the stretch. It just happened. But I think they do have a really good group around him. One thing that I will say, though, about the Nico Harrison thing is I feel like when he got the job, there were necessary guardrails around his crazy ass ideas like trading Luka Doncic, right? And methodically you started to see those guardrails be taken out of place. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, like, he was the face of, we drafted Lively. We traded for Kyrie. That was a really good move. But then, the ownership change. Then Lindsey is not in the picture anymore, right? And then you have new ownership who doesn't really know about basketball. This literally was a land grab, and then he starts giving these ideas, and they're like, okay, whatever, do what you got to do. We're trying to build a casino right now, and then you start seeing this, and then the ownership starts smartening up and being like, hey man, how are we going to sell this casino dream when we don't have like a generational face of the franchise? And then after the trade, and then it's like, oh shit, now we got to manage a team too. And I feel like it was a confluence of things that the guardrails got taken off and the ownership got finally hip to, hey, we actually have to run a business, and by running a business is running a basketball team with competent people. Like, that's where we sit here. Howard, where do you stand on who they can hire right now, right? Because do they do a search firm? Like, this is clearly an organizational structure that doesn't know basketball. How do they go? How do they get from point A to point B? Because Finley always seemed like somebody that supported the front office and kind of just brought that ethos, similar to, I guess, Udonis Haslem, right? He's a figurehead of like, what's the pulse of what a Dallas Maverick player is, or not necessarily going out and getting guys. Where does the path forward here?
I say this all the time, and the best example I can always give is that when Vivek Ranadive took over the Kings, he hired Vlade Divac, right? Vlade, beloved former Sacramento King, good local ties, admired in the community, and Vivek knew him. He was somebody he knew, who happened to have played in the NBA and had a really good career. That's not enough. And this is the problem, because these people come in, owners, they're all billionaires these days. They've had great success elsewhere. Some of them even think they know the NBA. Hello, Matt Ishbia. Most of them don't know anything about the NBA, or don't know enough, or just think they know way more than they do. And so they make a bad hire. They might trust the wrong people, or they themselves are not enough of a guardrail, to use the term that you were using, Logan. So that's where Patrick Dumont and the Adelson family find themselves now. They inherited Nico, but they overempowered Nico and didn't have enough guardrails around or the know-how themselves to stop what became an absolutely catastrophic trade. And that is why they are where they are right now. How do you fix that? So there is a search firm out there. I can't remember the headhunter firm, but that does these searches for you. And they know NBA people. and they will make the rounds and they will vet all these people, and they'll try to find whether it's somebody who's got experience, like Raja was alluding to, maybe David Griffin, who Raja worked with in Cleveland, now free. Like I think Griff would be really good for this job. If you want somebody new, somebody's top lieutenant, a number 2 with a successful franchise, right? Oh, let's see, like the Thunder have had great success. Can we grab one of their guys, or the Spurs, or the Warriors, or the Heat? Look to the organizations that have had great success recently. But Patrick Dumont doesn't know that, and he doesn't know these people, and he doesn't know how to tell them apart. So the search firm would be one way. The other way would be, if you're not going to elevate Michael Finley or Matt Riccardi, then you've had enough time now to establish a relationship with them since you've been owner. Talk to them, trust them. Say, guys, we want to go outside the franchise. We think we need new leadership. You tell me. You guys work the phones every day. You are traveling all the time. You are talking to other GMs and assistant GMs and personnel directors and all this. Who out there is really sharp? Who's the next Sam Presti? Who's the next Masai Ujiri? That's how you do this. And if you're not networked as the owner yourself, you're at a disadvantage. And he won't be. There's no way Patrick Dumont knows all these names, past or present, or certainly anybody's number 2s. He probably can't name all 30 GMs. He certainly can't name their number 2s. So that's where the search firm comes in, or that's where you do rely on the guys you do have in your front office right now to give you the landscape.
Raja, do players know, like, shit is hitting the fan? What is the player dynamic right now throughout this season? I'm going to ask you 2 different types of questions. There's the player that is the Derek Lively and, the Anthony Davis, who is invested in the long-term success of this team. Right. And then there's also the newer guys or the younger guys that don't really know any better, or other guys that are trying to just get a check and trying to, provide. Put us in the mind of those 3 different types of players at this very moment. What are they thinking? What is going on? And how do they salvage this at this point?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. I would guess that your older, longer in the tooth player that, looking for championships, supposed to be a part of a championship contending window that Nico thought was open. That player's probably kind of nervous about what's going on right now. That player is understanding the situation that we're talking about, which is, the guy that brought me here to do this fired, fresh blood coming in, and all the shakeup that could come with that. Timelines reset. We know we got Cooper Flagg. Obviously, this has not played out the way anyone thought it would play out. And what does that mean for me moving forward? The guy just trying to provide for his family, I don't think you're affected by this at all. Like it wouldn't have affected me. As I got older and I was more of a real, I want to be careful with my words here. I was more of an integral piece to the winning that we were doing as an organization. I would have had more going on with the general manager. There would have been more interaction. I would have had more of a personal relationship with them. But when I was younger, just trying to feed the family, get my next contract, put some good film out there, I didn't really care who the general manager was, nor did I see him or speak to him very often. It might have just been a hello in passing in the offices, but like that wasn't my focus. My focus was on the things that I just, kind of said that it was on. So for the young superstar in Cooper Flagg and, the young pieces, the Derek Lively's and the Gaffords, like that is an interesting question. I've never been one of those guys. I think you're stable. I think it's not affecting your day-to-day that much, but there are going to be questions that you want answered through your agent when this guy takes his seat, maybe at the end of this season, in terms of the vision for what this is going to look like. You see this all the time with like quarterbacks in the NFL. They are a general manager's guy. And when that general manager is no longer there, the next GM wants their guy. I don't think Coop fits into that. I think it's a little unique to quarterbacks in that way. I don't see it as a basketball. Coop is a number 1 pick regardless of who the GM is. But there are other guys in there that you might want to know, and you might want reassurances from the new guy that you're a part of the plan moving forward, right? So like that locker room could be all over the place. But I talk about this all the time. At the end of the day, no matter where I fall on that list, whether I'm an older guy of championships or I'm a young guy trying to feed the family or I'm a focal point of the organization moving forward, we're all pros. And we've all got to keep going out there every other night just about and continue to be pros and put the best product out on the floor, not just for the organization, but for ourselves. So, they're all-star games. There's all rookies. There's rookie of the years. There are things that we all want to attain outside of the team success that clearly we're not going to have this year, that we have to be focused on, putting the best product out there to have the opportunity to do that. And so that's got to be your focus in the short term. Like, you really got to compartmentalize it and just go about your business as a pro.
Yeah. Howard, I think, it's funny. I think that one of the things that we're not talking about enough is the influence of Mark Cuban in all of this, right? And I know that he kind of puts on a face of like, whoa, it's me, this shouldn't have happened. But all of this stuff directly goes back to Mark Cuban selling the team, right? Like, I know why he did it. I could see, you see the check right in front of you, but I feel like there's a responsibility, especially somebody who is entrenched in Dallas lore in the way that he is, not only as an owner, but also as a figure there, right? I feel like there is a responsibility for him, and maybe he got assurances, but they weren't in writing, but to vet the ownership group that's coming in so shit like this doesn't happen, right? And not only did he, sell it to this new ownership, he also, had this BS title of whatever he is, and he couldn't stop the worst decision in franchise history. And I know he's going to put a face on it, but like, there has to be a responsibility in transferring of ownerships for shit like this not to happen, man. Right? If you're going to sell the team, at least to sell it to somebody responsible.
I'm struggling with this one, Logan, honestly, because owners are just stewards of these franchises, right? You don't actually own it. You're borrowing it. You get it for a time and then you either pass it on to your kids or you sell it or whatever. You're a steward. You're there for a time, and your job is to do the best you can and keep faith with the fans for the time that you have that team, right? And Cuban's record is all over the map, but there's a championship in there. There's a lot of really competitive years in there. They've been a lot of fun for the most part during his time. And when he decides the time is over and it's time to sell, like, how much can you account for what the person after you does with the franchise? Like,
he seemed to be really invested in it as a person, right?
No, listen, you're right. This is why I said I struggle with it, Logan. I'm not dismissing your premise outright, but I'm just saying, like, look, Cuban's the one who did the whole Mavs fan for life thing, MFFL, hashtag MFFL, t-shirts, MFFL. Mark Cuban was the first owner, I think, ever in the NBA, and certainly of my time covering this league for the last almost 3 decades, to be like almost a mascot for the franchise. Like, you might not be able to name most of the owners at any given time, but you always knew who Mark Cuban was. You knew what he looked like, what he sounded like. You knew his t-shirts. You knew he wasn't going to be wearing suits on the sideline. You knew that he was going to be, long before Steve Ballmer ever arrived, Cuban was going to be courtside in every camera shot cheering on his team or screaming at the refs on occasion and doing other stuff. He brought that passion to it, and I think that was largely a good thing, all other mistakes aside. And so when you do that, when you decide to identify yourself that closely with the franchise that you own, you run the risk of Logan's position, which is you have a responsibility as a businessman to look out for the best interest of the franchise even after it's not yours. And that's where I struggle, because I think, like, no, during the period of time that he's the majority owner, everything is on him. He is identified with the franchise, good, bad, and otherwise. The moment you decide to sell, yeah, he should have got more assurance. He should have got it in writing. He should have done more to convince the league office. Cuban claims he did do all these things. But you lost control in a way that you were not anticipating or expecting or planning for when you made the sale. So you left the Mavericks vulnerable then. You left them vulnerable to a new ownership group that didn't know jack about the NBA. In his defense, most new ownership groups don't know jack about the NBA, as I was saying.
They just want to be in the club.
They just want to be in the club, or they, in this case, want a foothold for a casino in Dallas or whatever it may be. I don't know that you can hang Patrick Dumont's mistakes on Cuban. I do think, if I'm going to blame Cuban for anything, it's that I think it was misplaced faith in Nico Harrison as a GM who had zero experience in an NBA front office. like, I thought it was a reach at the time. All due respect to Nico, who I've known a long time. I like Nico, but like, I thought it was a reach. There have been a lot of reaches, and sometimes they work out. Leon Rose was a reach, and it's worked out pretty well for the Knicks. And, there have been any number of unconventional GMs who have been hired in the last 10, 15 years. Some have worked out, some haven't. This one did not.
I can appreciate where Logan was coming from, and Howard, what you're saying about Cubes. I lived that with him. He was awesome, at least for a year I did. When I choose to downsize and all the kids are gone and I'm ready to cash out, okay? And the new owner takes this house and paints it purple. Don't fucking call me.
What if you have a 27% stake in the house?
That's Miami.
The HOA
They will paint it purple. That's Miami. You never know. They love the pastels, though.
I hear you, Logan, but like at that point, I mean, you're saying I've been in this community since it was developed. What you're saying is I probably owe it to my neighbors to hold on to like some control so they don't do that. But like, how would I know they would do that?
I appreciate what you're saying. But I'm going to say this, though. You can't have it both ways where you're not you specifically, because I know what you would have done. You wouldn't have like sold 70-something% of the house. You would have been like, bye, I'm out. Like I'm going somewhere else. So Mark Cuban didn't sell 100% of the house is what I'm saying. Like if either you're going to be in it or you're not. That's what I'm saying. Right.
No, I feel you.
He chose to have both his cake and eat it too. And I think it blew up in his face.
And he's been, I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, you guys could correct me. Like he has had some critiques of what's going on and some frustrations about it. Right. Like, and so I totally understand what you're saying. Like, I'm making a joke, but like.
Yeah, he's distanced himself from it, and he has said that if he were still in charge, basically, the Luka trade would have never happened. And I believe him. I don't think Mark's talking out of his ass on that one. I think that's true. I don't think in a gazillion years Mark Cuban would have ever traded Luka Doncic, and he would have told Nico, hell no. I believe that. Irrelevant because you sold the team, and the new guy didn't consult you on this, and he should have. But again, I'm not holding Mark Cuban responsible for DeMont painting the Mavericks arena purple.
That's fair. All right. I have a 2-for-1 question before we get to Cartier Cliff. What is the lasting legacy of Nico Harrison?
Oh, jeez.
And yeah, you too, Roger. You got to answer this. I'm gonna answer last. And how confident are you in this Mavericks, whatever it's situated as today, going forward?
Yeah, Nico's legacy will always be the guy who gave away, Luka Doncic and set the franchise back however many years it takes him to dig out of this hole. Which brings me to the second part of that question, which and my answer is I have zero faith. And maybe that answer will change once they get someone in place, and I can go over his resume and his successes and be able to see the clearer path towards it. But until then, you've got some nice pieces. I shouldn't say zero faith. There are some nice pieces in the cupboard, but like the jury is out is a better way for me to answer that. I have no idea where you're going. To the case that Howard's been making this pretty much whole pod about, Dumont and the family, like they don't know the NBA circles in that way. So I'd have to then have faith in them making the right hire. There's a lot that has to go right for me to see you guys getting out of this in a relatively quick time frame. And so for that reason, I don't think I have a ton of faith in it until I see otherwise, or that you give me reason to feel otherwise.
The problem when you make a trade that was as ill-considered and as catastrophic as the Luka trade is that it will be the only thing you're ever known for, ever. And that's it. Like, Nico's, in his maybe mid to late 40s. He's been around the league a long time previously as a Nike executive, and he had great relationships with Kobe and a bunch of other people. And like, that was what he was known for. If you knew his name at all, most NBA fans probably didn't even know who he was until this job. None of that's going to matter. Like, it's unfortunate. I'm sorry. Like, unless in his, next iteration of his career, he solves world hunger or something, it's going to be really hard to knock the Luka trade to the second line of his resume and his Wikipedia page. That's it. It's just, that's what he's stuck with forever in NBA circles. And there's no way around that. He was the executive when they got to the NBA finals, and he and his front office made some really great moves that got them there. But None of that's going to matter. It's the Luka trade. And it's not just that he traded Luka. It's that, you shouldn't have traded him. You shouldn't have traded him only to one team or had talked only with one team. You should have got more back. It's every single piece of it. And so, yeah, that's it. In terms of where they're going from here, like, I think Mavericks fans should feel good that in the near term, Michael Finley and Matt Riccardi and whoever else is remaining in that front office are there. And I think that there are some smart basketball people there. I think they'll be fine. I think you have hope in the fact that the lottery gods, for whatever reason, decided to take you from 11th to 1 and get Cooper Flagg back in the spring. Like, this is not a barren situation, but it does take smart leadership to build around a Cooper Flagg and to do this right. And again, in my view, I don't think this is controversial at all. That's where you should be looking right now. That's where you should be lean into your future. The present is toast. If you can get anything at all for Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving in their oft injured states, you do it. Trade Klay Thompson, trade whoever, and just look to the future. I'll give Patrick Dumont credit for this much. The letter he put out to his fans a short time ago, which Mark Stein put out on social media a little bit ago, I think hits the right notes. It does not mention Luka Doncic's name. It does mention that the future had been bright and it isn't anymore. And quote, I understand the profound impact these difficult last several months have had. Please know that I'm fully committed to the success of the Mavericks. Thank you for your support, for holding us accountable. Like, those are the right notes to hit. Says you deserve transparency, the team that reflects your spirit. He's hitting the right notes. He's saying the right things, but actions, not words. And let's see who they hire and where they go from here.
First bit of advice for Nico: go to the beach, go to an island, get far, far away from here.
No internet.
Get a tan, get some pina coladas.
No internet, no cell service.
Just, be like Raja, how he is every spring on this podcast, just beautiful beaches and just some coffee, just get out of Dodge.
And also not responding to text.
Throw away your phone. Throw it in the ocean. It's okay. Get a paper ticket and just hold that in your luggage and just have your identification. Yeah, man, this is what he's going to be known for forever and ever and ever and ever. And, it's hard to be like, man, I can't let this define you, man. Don't let this break you. It is going to define you no matter what. So just get out of Dodge and just be with your family. I think I'm a little optimistic though about the Mavericks though. Like, everything you saw last night should give you optimism going forward about what you should. It's very cut and paste what you should do, bro. Just build around Cooper Flagg. Like, that's really all it is. Have him develop. The wins don't matter this season. Be patient, pick the right person, really do your due diligence. This season was a wash anyway, right? Like, I think that's something that we talked about in the beginning of the season with this podcast, which is the only person that really had expectations was Nico Harrison. If you looked at the roster, you were like, nah, bro, like, this is for Cooper Flagg to develop. Everybody get the hell out of the way. And now they have the perfect opportunity to do that, right? Just start from scratch. I think the Mavericks will be okay. The path is right there, and it's right there forward, and it's clear as day. I think they will be okay if they don't try to do stupid trades to build a contender tomorrow. Just methodically build a contender around Cooper Flagg because he is the dude. And the gravitational pull is there. The Mavericks will be okay. They finally made the move they should have been made.
Provided they get the right person in that seat. Because all you're talking about and all Howard and I are talking about like that, that's not just a foregone conclusion. Like, you have to have someone that knows how to execute and maneuver in those circles. So that hire is going to tell you, the hire is going to tell you what you need to know.
Yep. Let's take a quick break. Cartier Cliff on the other side. And we are back. Cartier Cliff is in the building. What we got, Cartier Cliff?
Fellas, what's good? Howard Beck was good. Raj was good. Lolo was good, man. So far, we've seen every team play 10 games this season. Some surprises, some disappointments. Logan's MVP pick for Victor Wembanyama is looking pretty good. So we got a couple categories you got to speed through here, as Beck likes to do. You know what I'm saying? So let's get to the first category here. Who has been the biggest surprise in the first 10 games of the season? I want to go to Raj on this. Raj, I want to hear you.
The biggest surprise. Are we talking about player, team?
It was open to interpretation.
Open to interpretation. Raj, it's an open book.
So, man, tough. I think player for me might be Josh Giddey. They just look really, really good and with a bigger role and more freedom in Chicago. He didn't play last night. They look good. I liked him. I ultimately went with the Detroit Pistons. Obviously Cade's playing great. Jalen Duren. Their defense is just fantastic. Good pickups in the offseason. Duncan and Karis LeVert. I think, them setting the pace in the Eastern Conference, although I thought it would be just kind of open at the upper tier of the Eastern Conference, them coming out of the gates and setting the pace right now for me is the biggest surprise, I think, in a good way.
Lo, who's your biggest surprise so far?
I think my biggest surprise right now is it's not really a surprise, to be honest. I had the Pistons, but Roger took my shit. I had a whole thing for the Pistons. Had all the
Detroit basketball.
So I'll add on to what I think for the Pistons. I think they're doing really good. I think Cade is kind of coming into his own. But when you think about it, though, this is kind of what you want to see, right, out of a team.
Yeah, no doubt.
So on one hand, it is a surprise that they're top of the Eastern Conference. But on the other hand, it's if Cade is that dude and finally coming into his own, this is what you want to see. This is what the Pistons is what you wanted to see out of the Magic, right? Just an organic ascension into the conference. But I could say the Bulls because they've done good and Josh Giddey has done good, but I'm not gonna get into the rigmarole of what we do because I feel what we tend to do at the Ringer and what we tend to do as a NBA media apparatus at this time of the season when it's about to be the dog days, but anoint teams, and I feel like the Bulls are the team that is getting anointed at this point, and same with Josh Giddey. And I'm they're still hovering around 500 at this point, especially after they lost. And Josh Giddey looks good at the contract that he's in, but do you want to give him $35 million or $45 million or whatever he could command if he continues to this happen? It's the same Austin Reeves question. So that's me doing the poo-poo on the Chicago Bulls after watching them last night. But what I will say is I just want to bring this team up. The Houston Rockets. And I know they were expected to be good this season, but after what we saw after the Van Vliet injury, the big question that me, Howard, and Raja had after the opening week was how are they going to find offense without the point guard even if it's at the expense of KD playing a lot of point guard and Şengün playing a lot of point guard. Guess what? They just did it. They're like, fuck it. We're going to play Şengün at point guard, put his back to the basket. We're going to do the same thing we did in the playoffs last year. KD, you're going to get the ball down the stretch. You're going to play some point guard. You're going to figure it out too. Reed Shepherd, you're going to come along. You have had some good games and some games, but we're just going to figure it out, and we'll see if we trade for a point guard down the stretch. But they have the best offense in the league despite not having that point guard. It speaks to how great of a coaching job Ime Udoka has done. It speaks to the buy-in of Kevin Durant, who's been playing really well. It speaks to Şengün, and I've been pleasantly surprised with what I've seen with the Rockets. And I hope that they, continue to ascend. And if they do get a point guard, I don't know who that is. Is that Kobe White? Do they take a chance on Trae Young? I hope they don't take Ja Morant, but do they get Ja Morant? Who knows? But I think it doesn't have to be a star point guard. It just has to be a point guard to kind of manage the floor. But I think they'll be fine. I've been pleasantly surprised with their offense because I thought there was going to be a lot more growing pains, and they just said, fuck it, we're just going to do whatever the best offensive players can do, we're just going to let them be them, and we'll figure out the rest. And I think that Eme's done a great job with that group.
And Beck?
My first impulse here was going to be Bulls and Giddey, which you guys both kind of alluded to. And I do think, look, just to touch on them real quick before I give a different answer, the Bulls have cooled off after that 5-0 start. I think they're coming back to earth in a way that makes sense. I think they're settling in where we thought they'd be, which is probably going to be hovering around 500. Nobody I don't think thought they were going to actually be leading the East or be, top 4 in the East when all was said and done. But they did find something in Josh Giddey. That Caruso-Giddey swap looks a lot better now than it did at the time. And the deeper that Giddey goes, being able to shoot threes at a decent rate, shooting 38.5% now, career high, it looks pretty good. He's nearly averaging a triple-double, 21 points, 9.5 rebounds, 9.3 assists. All that bodes well for the Bulls because you can't really build a sustainable upper playoff team until you've got guys you can build around. and Giddey's looking like a fundamental piece. That's great. But my answer for this one's going to be the Bucks. I, like a lot of people, not that I was down on the Bucks. I didn't think they were going to fall out of the playoffs or anything. As long as you've got Giannis, you're going to be a force. But, Ryan Rollins has popped, and some other young guys have kind of like shown some good signs. And this is like not a great roster, and Miles Turner's not even playing all that well, but Giannis is kicking everybody's ass. And they're 7-4 in a 3-way tie as we record this, in a 3-way tie with Cleveland and Miami for third best record in the East. Like, they're right there. And I'm not shocked. I'm not even all that surprised, but a little bit, because after Giannis, it's a pretty steep drop off there in talent level. And there's a good reason why we were all spending the summer speculating about Giannis's future. He has shoved that to the back burner with his play, and his teammates are helping him out in that regard. Like, Kyle Kuzma looks like an NBA player again. Hallelujah. AJ Green's looking good. Ryan Rollins looking great. Like, it's an impressive start with a pretty unspectacular supporting cast.
Hey, I got to say this though real quick. This roster, aside from Giannis, is kind of Doc Rivers' bag, right? Like, you think about the 2018-2019 Clippers, where, like, who are these guys over here? Who are these players? Why are they playing so well out of nowhere? This is kind of where Doc Rivers flourishes, where he has to develop guys, and he overachieves. He is a great overachieving coach, I think, with some championship pedigree. But, like, I think when he's in this type of predicament, this is when he thrives the most. So I just want to give Doc a shout out as well. What's the next segment, Cliff?
Next category is biggest disappointment. Raj, again, gotta toss it to you, buddy. What do you think is the biggest disappointment so far?
His biggest disappointment is that Nico got fired and he had to talk about it.
Yeah, like, the Nico's my guy. Shit. Nico used to look me out when nobody would look me out. So I always.
Do you have friends, Howard? Do you defend those friends?
Damn right.
Yes.
Depends.
Let's see. Biggest disappointment. Player team. Probably the LA Clippers.
Okay.
Probably the Clippers. They've I mean, I don't know where I had them falling in the Western Conference, but they look old. They don't look like they do, right? Like, they look old. They are old. What are they in the league? They gotta be a top 5.
They're the oldest team in the league.
Yeah, I think before the season they were the oldest team.
They're old. They look old. I mean, they're terrible defensively. That used to be what they were kind of about. I mean, they had, obviously, Kawhi and Zubac and Harden that were good offensive players, but I think the Norman Powell thing hurt them. Yeah, be the Clippers, dude. Like, I'm not going to get all long-winded and shit. They just look old. They don't defend. I love T. Lue, man, but, I talk about it sometimes when you're looking around and you're wondering if the messaging is still hitting the same way, Like, I hate to say that, but they'd be my biggest disappointment.
Lolo, biggest disappointment so far?
I was gonna go with the Pelicans, but I mean, did we really? I thought, just because I picked him to be my sleeper and Howard also picked him to be his sleeper, I guess we kind of have to say the Pelicans. But, like, in the back of our minds, you guys asked sleeper. In the back of our minds, we knew what it was, right? We kind of like
it was a little bit of wish casting.
It was a little wish casting, right? Then we saw the first couple of games, we were like, "What the fuck?" And also the real ones. One thing I love about the real ones, they always call us out. They were like, "Are you serious about this Pelicans pick?" Every time we've dropped a podcast, they've been saying that. But no, I'm not going to go with the Pelicans because it's kind of expected. I'm going to go with the Hawks, right? And more specifically, I think, and they're doing good, so we could talk. They're doing good or better now. But of all of the expectations that we had, particularly in this Western Conference, and we just talked about the Bucks and how they're overachieving. And this conference, if you don't overachieve and how barren and weak this conference is, something is wrong with your team, right? And I think that we've seen that with the Hawks. I think the Trae Young situation is kind of probably hit his zenith, and I think we in a good way, we know that the Hawks know who they are at this point and kind of have a similar to what we talked about with the Mavericks, kind of know what the path forward is here. I think the writing is kind of on the wall with Trey. And, if you next year, they got the Pelicans pick, so they could build around what they have without Trey Young. He's probably gonna play with his player option, but they could either trade him, get him out, and just start fresh with a new front office. I think they're doing good. But in terms of this season, I think the Hawks have been a big disappointment, and this kind of is what it is. We had real high expectations. You can also, I don't know who Howard's pick is, so I'm just gonna not just take everything, but I would say the Hawks for me.
Yeah, the two top teams on my list are the two you guys just named. But just to add on both. So the Clippers, look, I said they were a 50-win team because they were a 50-win team last year, and I thought they only got better. They did trade Norm Powell. It's now I'm wondering if that was a mistake, if not even just for production purposes, although he's been phenomenal in Miami. Missed a few games, but he's been great. Was it a chemistry thing too, right? Was there just something about Norm Powell being a consummate kind of glue guy who can also do more than just be a glue guy, also put up some points and run the offense at times. But they won 50 games with Kawhi missing almost 2/3 of the season.
Yeah, they're one game away from beating Denver.
They bring back everybody except Norm Powell. They had John Collins. They had Brook Lopez. They had the ghost of Bradley Beal and
Chris Paul.
And Chris Paul, none of those guys needed to do big things for them. They just needed to make them that much deeper and more versatile. I thought for sure 50+ wins is back on the table. I had Ty Lue as my preseason coach of the year. So by far, considering my own projections, the Clippers are the biggest disappointment sitting here at 3-7 right now, tied with the Jazz and the Kings. Ugh. But yeah, shout out to the Pelicans in this too, because yeah, you look at it they're going to end up being one of those consummate, look back years from now and go I don't get it. I look down on paper and I'm like, Zion Williamson, that guy was super talented. Trey Murphy's really good. Herb Jones, there's all this, there's decent talent there. And it's just they're just less than the sum of their parts. There's just something amiss. Oh, back to the Clippers, speaking of something amiss. So I talked to somebody recently who had some insights there, who basically said he does think the aspiration stuff is really hanging over that team. I thought that would be more of a front office thing, right? If the Kawhi aspiration cap circumvention scandal was anything, it would be something for the front office to deal with. I didn't think that would leach into the locker room, but it's been suggested to me that is in fact having an impact on just kind of the spirit of the team. Not to mention there's been lawyers going through the offices, going through whatever, I guess laptops and text messages, whatever the Wachtell Lipton search entails. It's involving some guys having their stuff gone through, not the players, obviously the front office, but yeah, or as the person put it to me, it's not a serene place at the moment. So maybe that's all seeping in. And maybe once again, this is just karma taking its course.
Interesting stuff there, Howard. As always, one with the information. I love it. Let's get to the final category here. Who would you least like to be at this point of the season? Approximately 10 games in, who would you least like to be? Raj, who would you least like to be, man?
Hey,
my man.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I pass. Nah, I mean, there's some pretty bad records out there to be some miserable kind of locker rooms to be in at 1-9. But ultimately, I think I'm going to take the team that we talked about last pod, Logan, and say just the Memphis Grizzlies because of the dissension between their head coach and their franchise player and just the mess that seems to be. Yeah, I mean, do I need to elaborate on it? I mean, when you have a role player or somebody that's less meaningful to your organization sideways with a coach and the organization, that's one thing. When it's the face of the franchise, a guy like Ja, and then, this is a new hire type of situation. This is immediate, and it's sideways like that already. It's fundamental. It's at its core. I just think that's messy, and it makes for a bad locker room more than anything, right? You could be a bad team record-wise, and it would be counterintuitive, but you might still have good vibes. right? Like cats are playing hard. You're young. You haven't figured out how to win yet. Like you could, from the outside, you might look at that and be like, oh, that's a shit show. And if you ask guys inside, they'd be like, no, we're good. Like we don't know how to win, but we're fine. Like we got guys that are developing on the fly, showing promise as young players. Like, but when that locker room is shitty, that's not a cool place to be. So for those reasons, I'd say Memphis.
Lo, who you got?
I mean, it's pretty simple here. Steve Ballmer. I hate to be Steve Ballmer right now. That would suck. You bought this team, right? Very clearly, like no matter how much money you pump into it, no matter how many things that you do that you think are innovative, no matter how much you grandstand about how innovative you are, shit just starts fucking up for you every time, right? You get Kawhi Leonard, you get Paul George, the team that you traded with wins a title off of all of your picks, right? Then, you have the Aspire situation, right? Which also, Howard, I'm not really surprised that it seeped into the locker room, considering the team's best player is involved in it, allegedly, or is definitely somebody
that dude's an android. Like he doesn't have any. Like when did you last see Kawhi actually have any feelings or express like concern?
That's what he. No, but here's the thing, though. That's what he expresses to us. We don't know him.
In the locker room, he's like, guys, I'm really worried about.
No. We just don't know what's going on in his head. We just don't know what's going on in his head, right? Like, and so, like, I'm not surprised that it seeped into the locker room, but then you have that. And then they don't own I mean, I know this, but they don't own their own first-round pick until 2030? Or no. And I think 2029 is top 3 protected. And their 2028 pick is to Philly. Jeez. Cliff is out here just smiling so much right now, right? But, like, on top of that, you have this Aspirian case all over you, and then you're going to have even more eyes on the incompetence of the organization in February when the All-Star game. All people are going to be talking about during the All-Star weekend is what's going on with the Clippers, and all we talk about when it comes to the Clippers is how bad things have gone for them. And for all of the resources and all of the things and everything that Steve Ballmer has hit us over the head with, they've only done it to be average. And, I would hate to be that. That would suck. I'm surprised Howard and Raza, nobody picked the Magic. And maybe that's because Desmond Bane hit a 3 last night to win the game. But the Magic have been very, very disappointing. And
Howard didn't go yet.
No, that was the last one. Biggest disappointment. The Magic
disappointment.
weren't there. Biggest disappointment. So the Magic should be in there. I just want to acknowledge that as such. But yeah, that's the Magic are mostly, I would least like to be.
The Magic are mostly a disappointment to our colleague Michael Pina, who overestimated them.
Bo, I got to say hold on real quick. I hate the fact that every time we bring up Michael Pina on this podcast is because of a take that didn't go his way. When the last time he got a take right? Because he keeps putting his when Michael Pina picks something, I get scared. He picked the Clippers the last 2 years. I'm legitimately scared. And then this Clipper shit happens, right? He's picked them, right? Then he picks the Magic. His pick is like the kiss of death. Pina, I love you, bro, but Jesus.
Pina's my guy, and I like to tweak him over this stuff.
Yikes.
Shout out to Michael Pina.
I know I got some bad takes, but damn, Pina.
I have always been a bit of a Magic skeptic, and Pina has long been a Magic optimist. So we're just on opposite sides of how we view the build of that team. But yeah, like they've definitely been a disappointment. Who would I least like to be at this point? Other than, I don't know, anybody associated with the Mavericks or Nico Harrison himself or anybody involved in the gambling saga, anybody involved in the cap circumvention saga. I wouldn't want to be Adam Silver, who now has to deal with 2 major scandals, 1 cap circumvention, 1 gambling. But team-wise, I'd least like to be the Sacramento Kings.
Let's go! Sorry, my bad.
You're a little too excited about that, Logan. Hater. They're 3-7. One of their only wins is against the Jazz. They did beat Milwaukee. They did beat the Warriors. 23rd in offensive rating, 27th in defensive rating, 26th in net. They got this wonky ass roster of mostly like older, past their prime vets: DeRozan, Levine, Westbrook. They got too many guys who need the ball in their hands: Sabonis, Schroeder, Monk, in addition to DeRozan, Levine, and Westbrook. They're one of their more promising young players, Keegan Murray. They give him a huge extension. He gets hurt. He's not playing. They're not a playoff team, but they're also not a team with a bunch of great young prospects that you can like build around. There's no franchise star here. Sabonis is a good co-star, but he's not a number one. They don't have cap room until probably 2027. I just don't even know where you go from here if you're the Sacramento Kings. I feel bad for Kings fans. They got the tease of the one breakthrough season, and then everybody's gone who had anything to do with it. Almost everybody. De'Aaron Fox, Mike Brown, front office. It's just, it's sad. Kings are depressing. I'm sorry. I've brought us all down. Except for Logan, who's giddy about this.
I went to the game on Friday, bro. No, it's just it's laughing to keep from crying because I went to the game on Friday against OKC, and this was a lineup that the Kings trotted out: DeMar DeRozan, Russell Westbrook, Eubanks, Zach LaVine, and Dennis Schroeder, which is something that I never thought I would see in 2025, and that happened. Yeah. But real quick though, because I'm glad that you guys are both on the line here, because Raja on Friday, he was flying high, baby. It was right after that Warriors game, and Russ had that triple-double, and he balled out, and he was ready to gloat. I want to give you the opportunity to gloat again, Raja. But Russ, in 16 minutes, his last game against the Timberwolves 2 nights ago, 6 points, 2 of 7 shooting, 2 of 5 from the field, 1 assist, 0 rebounds, 1 steal, and a block.
Yeah. What? How many minutes?
16 minutes.
Yeah, bro, what you want to do in 16 minutes, dog? What you like? He's 40-some years old, bro. Like, yes, that's what's going to happen sometimes, bro. I'm not telling you he's MVP Russ.
Okay, do you want to gloat for Howard right now because Russ is, letting Russ cook? Or like,
nah, I'm not. This isn't a gloating campaign for me, man. I'm just happy my dog's in the league right now, dog. Like, yeah, come on, man. For a dude, like, can we agree that, like, for at least a while there, what he meant to the NBA and what he was doing in the NBA was like riding, like he should be in the league to finish his career. I am happy for Russ.
I'm just sad that it got to be a Sacramento, but also like, hey, Sacramento did him a solid.
That's a bet.
Sac did him a solid.
They did him a solid. And if recent history, with Russ and teams and the words coming out of those locker rooms suggest like anything, he might have had something to do why a team like Sacramento is where he is going to be. But like, I'm just happy he's there.
Russ in that Kings jersey is Patrick Ewing in the Sonics jersey. It's just fucking weird. Like, and like Ewing had not been anywhere else before he started bouncing around after the Knicks traded him. But like Russ has been a bunch of places. It's just never looked as weird as Russ in the Kings. Yeah, that's
like a graveyard especially for players, bro.
Especially this version of the Kings, right? Like a couple years ago, it would have been like, oh, this is like the fun Kings, but like it's one of the many sad versions of the Kings. So of all the places to finish in that jersey at this time,
this top to bottom, that is but just a bottom. I think it's the worst organization in the league right now. Like
I'd rather be in the nursing home than not in the nursing home, if you can dig what I'm saying.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like progressions of like going from home to the nursing home to the next stop. I'd rather be in a nursing home.
That's the way I'm looking at that with Russ. Right, I just feel for Russ because in his first presser with the Kings, they asked him like, "Yo, man," like, or alluded to this probably being his last season, and he said, I got more seasons to go, and I just want to put his shoulder. So I'm gonna put my arm on his shoulder. There's still time for him to play for the Pelicans. Like, that might be the only other team that will take him after this, bro. Yeah, remember when Russ declined his option and you were like, oh, yeah, there's something back on here. And I was trying to tell you, like, yo, this might be it for Russ. And if the Kings didn't show up, this probably was it for Russ.
I was all the way off the mark on that. Russ, in this one, yeah, brother, enjoy this one. And let's go out. Let's
Blades of Glory, baby.
Go out on our own, bro. Let's go out on our own, dog.
I'm not gonna lie though. On Friday though, he hit 4 threes, and it was like, and he was just talking shit, and I was like, there he is.
Yes,
there's Russ. There he is.
Yes, we're tired the next day.
Okay, Cliff, how you feeling, man? Are you good? Are you okay?
Yeah, everything's good. Everything's
yeah, you good? Okay.
Big win for the Eagles last night. Sixers split against Detroit and Toronto. So, things are going well in Philly, man.
Okay. All right. All right. I just want to have some optimism after that Russ conversation because, God, that was sad. All right. That has been another edition of Romans. I promised we had a whole other show for you guys, but then the Nico Harrison news just came and we had to pivot. So, maybe 20 games in, we'll have our 20-game impressions and we'll do a full show about our impressions with all the similar categories.
And a mailbag, which we also had to scrap today. Sorry
and
to
a
our
mailbag
friends who send us thoughtful emails.
Yeah, that only Howard reads. Okay, see you guys on Friday. Me and Raja Bell there. Thank you to Howard motherfucking Beck. We will see you guys on Friday with me, Raja, Cliff, Victoria, Big BV. I'm Logie Boo, not the two. See you on Friday. All the shits. Bye.
Must be 21 years and older and present in select states for Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and older and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rghelp.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.